stupid and ridiculous excuses that will only surely testify to the fact that everything actually happened. With the crashed object, it concerned a beam ship from the Reticulum systems. The crew did not consist of natural human life forms but of human androids of a bioorganic nature, which means that they were artificial human androids, which the US Army also got a hold of, some living and some dead, and these were secretly kept in secret stations. With the bioorganic androids, it concerned defective artificial life forms, so not robots or the like, but independently thinking beings, in every way self-capable of making decisions, made out of living material and living organs, bred in accordance with the human beings who are located in the Reticulum systems. In Earth-human terms, these bioorganic androids bred by the Reticulum people are actual life forms, and as such, they are respected by the Reticulum people and are also appreciated and treated, for the androids are, indeed, artificial human beings. As such, they stand under the command of the real humans of the Reticulum systems, on whose behalf they also carry out excursions, etc. to foreign star systems and planetary systems. And such artificial human forms were associated with the crash, as I already explained. The intelligence of these android beings stems from a bioorganic consciousness of an artificial form, which is just as capable of development as the consciousness of the normal, natural person. Therefore, it can also be creative and inventive. The type of consciousness is designed uniformly and collectively in each android, which means that all of the androids have a uniform consciousness form, and so, they are collectively like-minded, and thus, a collective form of telepathic communication is owned by them. The form of consciousness of these artificial life forms is built on an artificial consciousness, which doesn't correspond to an actual personality but rather to an artificial form, which can think quite independently, act, and decide as well as develop itself further, but which isn't arranged into conscious evolution but only functions according to conscious instinct. This means that there is very well a capacity for development of the consciousness form, through which ideas are created and thought processes can take place, which are creative, inventive, and progressive and, thus, capable of being developed. But all of this just deals with conscious instinct, and nothing concerns conscious evolution. Either way, the form of consciousness of these bioorganic androids is an artificial organic element, in which no creative spirit is inherent in any form. The form of consciousness of the androids is formed in such a way that it owns a certain independence, in spite of the collectivity, whereby a degree of individuality is given, which cannot be compared, however, to an actual personality in a consciousness sense. Nevertheless, it has its own individuality, which may seem like a contraction to the earth person because he cannot understand these things in the least part of his mind and still can't make any conceptions of this. He will only gain these conceptions and the understanding as well as the knowledge relating to such android beings in the distant future. The bioorganic androids of the Reticulum people contain an authoritative programming in their artificial consciousness, which prevents that the artificial beings could ever rise over their designers, respectively their creators, but the time of their lives is limited to 300 years of devoted servitude to these. Nevertheless, they are entirely free and can in every way decide as to what responsibilities they undertake, exercise, or decline and, thus, whether they want to focus on a task or not. So they are in no way subject to compulsion by their creators. In the manner in which they are biologically created, they are incapable of performing sexual acts and also of reproducing themselves. Their own and appropriate kind of consciousness is contained in their artificial brains, and as I already mentioned, the artificial bioorganic consciousness does not contain the creative spirit form, which would drive and animate this by its own energies. Animation is provided by the artificial brain, which is constructed in such a way that it can absorb and use the cosmic electromagnetic life energies, so that the existence of life is guaranteed. It is this cosmic energy, by which the artificial life forms are animated and also made alive. All this, however, couldn't be recognized by all the doctors, surgeons and pathologists, etc. in the American secret stations, where the crashed android beings were taken. But how could they, since their knowledge relating to this wasn't in place yet? In fact, it will still take many centuries and even several millennia before the terrestrial scientists arrive at the possibility of creating such beings as the bio-organic androids. Therefore, these beings will remain an unsolvable mystery to them for a very long time, as it is also the case for them with regard to the crashed beings in Roswell. Billy says, now that was really detailed. Thank you for your explanations. But one thing still interests me with you. I've also seen androids, so artificial life forms that can think and act independently. Are these the same as the android beings of Reticulum? Quetzal says, on the whole, yes. Only the appearance of our androids is different in nature, for they are created after our likenesses, while the Reticulum androids resemble their creators, who are, in spite of their high technology and various sciences, still very unknowing in terms of really spiritual and creative interests, yet still arranged into a high and liberal culture with expressed human rights. Nevertheless, our directives forbid us from maintaining deliberate physical or telepathic contact with them. Billy says, so you have told me once before. Thus, there is nothing more to be said. But now, a question that concerns the eruption of the Vesuvius volcano in Italy on the 24th/25th of August, AD 79, which destroyed the cities of Herculaneum, Pompeii, and Sabra, by which many people lost their lives. Then, there were greater eruptions again in 1906 and in 1944, even though everything went off lightly. We did, indeed, already talk about this during the last conversation. You also mentioned a number to me regarding the people who lost their lives, and last of all, you then told me that you could be mistaken and, thus, would have to check to see how many there actually were. Have you now investigated this, and what had actually happened at that time? Quetzal says, in the catastrophe, 18,976 people were killed. The eruption of Vesuvius produced 6 pyroclastic flows, respectively clouds, which raced at a tremendous speed down the mountain and across the country and which suffocated all life beneath them. In particular, it was the 4th pyroclastic flow that wiped out so many human lives, while the 5th and 6th just did the rest. Billy says 18,976 people. Monstrosity. Was that the whole population? Quetzal says no, at that time, 25,411 people lived in those areas that were destroyed by the volcanic eruption. Billy says then there were still about 4/5 who lost their lives. Quetzal says that is correct. Billy says, what is a pyroclastic flow? Quetzal says it is a rapidly spreading cloud of hot ash, dust, and air. Billy says, aha, then the people suffocated and burned when the pyroclastic flows swept over them, destroying everything under themselves. Quetzal says that is, once again, correct. Billy says, good. Since we're already at it, what was the reason for the destruction of Petra? I mean Petra, the current ruin site with the rock necropolis in southern Jordan. Petra was the residence of the Nabatean king until the establishment of the Roman province of Arabia Petraea in the year AD 106 by Trajan. Petra was also a commercial center in the caravan traffic between Syria and southern Arabia. The city was abandoned after its conquest by the Arabs in the years 629–632. To my knowledge, it wasn't until 1812 that the city of Petra was discovered again. Quetzal says the discovery was made by a certain Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, who was born in 1784 and who already died, at the age of only 33 years, in 1817. Billy says it wasn't a discovery but a rediscovery. In 1829, so 12 years after Burckhardt's death, the first excavations were made in Petra. I myself can remember the very ornate facades of the multi-story grave facilities worked into the rock cliffs. Quetzal says, I understand. You were enjoying